Is it possible that the modern female body is currently operating under a biological overload 9 times heavier than what nature intended for 99.9% of human history? Think about your bathroom right now. A box of pads or tampons sits quietly in a drawer, bought with zero hesitation. It is just a mundane part of existence. But for over 300,000 years, none of that existed. No pharmacies, no manufactured cotton, no plastic wrappers. Instead, imagine a brutal world locked in ice, where massive glaciers dominate the horizon and survival hangs by a thread. In the pitch black of an ice age night, a young prehistoric woman named Kaya sits near a crackling fire, facing a strict biological reality, with nothing but what she can gather from the frozen dirt. Yet modern anthropology brings us an unbelievable truth that shatters our assumptions. Ancient women almost never had their periods. A modern woman living in an industrialized society will menstruate roughly 450 times in her lifetime, spanning nearly 40 years of relentless monthly cycles. Conversely, researchers studying ancient hunter-gatherer populations discovered that prehistoric women menstruated as few as 50 to 100 times in their entire lives. This is not a statistical anomaly. It is a massive biological gap that explains everything about how our ancestors actually lived. The reason for this massive difference lies in the age of onset and body composition. Today, a girl gets her first period around age 12 due to caloric abundance. In ancient times, teenagers like Kaya were incredibly lean, walking miles every day to forage for roots through harsh terrains. Their young bodies simply lacked the caloric surplus needed to trigger menstruation early, pushing the biological milestone back to age 16 or 17. Once a young woman like Kaya finally reached physical maturity around age 17, her biological timeline immediately shifted into the next phase: survival of the species. Without any modern form of contraception, historical records show that most women became pregnant within a year or two of their very first cycle. And this is exactly where the evolutionary math rewrites everything we think we know about the ancient female body. A pregnancy lasts for 9 long months, which automatically means 9 months of zero menstruation. But the true pause button was pressed right after childbirth. In ancestral hunter-gatherer communities, mothers breastfed their infants on demand, dozens of times every single day, continuing this intensive nursing for 3 to 4 years straight, because there were no alternative baby foods available in the wilderness. This constant, intense nursing triggered a powerful natural condition known as lactational amenorrhea. The female body produces surging levels of the hormone prolactin during continuous breastfeeding, which completely suppresses ovulation. No ovulation means absolutely no period. For our young ancestor Kaya, her reproductive years became a prolonged sequence of long breaks rather than a relentless monthly recurrence. Her life looked like this first period, at 17 pregnant by 18, followed by 4 years of continuous breastfeeding with 0 cycles. She might experience just 2 or 3 periods before becoming pregnant again, repeating this loop 5 to 7 times until her body could no longer sustain it. Many ancient women went years, sometimes an entire decade, without a single period, making the monthly cycle an incredibly rare event. Even though it was rare, biology eventually called. When those days arrived, amidst the freezing winds of the Ice Age, Kaya used whatever the earth provided under her feet. In damp, boggy regions, sphagnum moss was the ultimate lifesaver. This natural plant material is incredibly absorbent, holding up to 20 times its own dry weight in liquid, while acting as a natural antiseptic when wrapped in soft animal skins. In more arid climates, women utilized softened wood bark, crushed dried grass, or absolutely nothing at all, letting the blood flow naturally onto dark hide garments. There was no cultural anxiety or internalized shame. The modern concept that menstrual blood is inherently unclean and must be perfectly hidden is a recent cultural invention. To our ancestors, it was simply blood, a natural element of human life. But what they did during these times is far more fascinating. Across nearly every inhabited continent, women undergoing their cycles temporarily stepped away from the main camp to gather in specific structures called menstrual lodges. Modern bias often assumes these huts were a form of cruel banishment, but deeper archaeological and cultural analysis tells a completely opposite story of deep reverence and spiritual power. Among indigenous groups, these communal lodges functioned as a sacred retreat, away from the harsh demands of daily nomadic life. Inside, women gathered together to share food, oral histories, and rest deeply by the fire, completely exempt from hauling wood or butchering meat. While the men and older children took full charge of the domestic chores, the lodge provided a vital, built-in biological vacation. One of the most profound mysteries waiting in African archaeological sites, dating back over 100,000 years, is the overwhelming presence of red ochre. Scientists have excavated tons of this natural iron oxide mineral. It was ground into ultrafine powder, mixed with animal fats to create paint, smeared onto hunting tools, rubbed onto human bones, and splattered across the dark, undulating walls of ancient caves. Why were our ancestors so deeply obsessed with this specific red pigment? Renowned anthropologists Camilla Power and Chris Knight developed a groundbreaking explanation called the female cosmetic coalitions hypothesis. They argue that as early humans evolved, women lost the obvious external physical signs of ovulation that other primates display. Menstruation became the only clear indicator of a woman's reproductive status. To prevent dominant males from monopolizing fertile females and abandoning the rest, ancient women began using red ochre to paint their bodies in solidarity. By covering themselves collectively in the deep red pigment, they simulated a state of menstruation across the entire group. This brilliant visual trick blurred the lines of who was actually ready to conceive, forcing the hunters to share meat with the entire coalition. If this evolutionary theory holds true, then the very first symbolic act in the history of human consciousness, the first time a human being used paint to communicate a social message, was not art for art's sake. It was the deliberate replication of menstrual blood. Human culture, ritual, and community solidarity were quite literally born from the management of the female cycle. It is the bedrock of civilization itself. As the Ice Age thawed and agricultural civilizations arose, these primal traditions began to fade. In ancient Egypt, women turned to softened papyrus fibers, molded into primitive tampons. In medieval Europe, they relied on old linen rags, washing and reusing them for years under a cloud of growing societal secrecy. This grueling practice is exactly where the old-fashioned idiom, "on the rag," originated. The modern world we recognize today was born in a very unexpected place: the chaotic trenches of World War I. On the bloody battlefields of France, the nurses discovered that a new type of cellucotton bandage, invented to dress wounded soldiers, absorbed blood significantly better than any standard cloth. When the war ended, the Kimberly-Clark Company repurposed this military material, launching Kotex in the year 1920. Within a single generation, the ancient methods that women like Kaya had relied upon for 300,000 years were replaced by disposable products wrapped in plastic. But this sudden shift into modern convenience brought a severe hidden cost. Evolutionary biologists now refer to this phenomenon as an evolutionary mismatch. Our modern environment has drastically outpaced the slow, careful design of our ancient DNA. Consider this alarming medical reality. Experiencing 450 ovulations forces the ovaries and the endometrial lining to to undergo constant, rapid cell division for decades without a break. Every single time a cell divides, the risk of a genetic mutation increases. Modern medical research heavily links this unprecedented lifetime cycle count to the surging rates of ovarian and endometrial cancers seen in women today. These reproductive cancers were virtually non-existent in ancestral populations. In a fascinating twist of medical science, modern hormonal birth control pills, which function by completely halting ovulation, actually lower the risk of these cancers. They do this not by curing a disease, but by accidentally mimicking the exact low-cycle hormonal pattern that the ancient female body was originally engineered to experience. Looking back at the long evolutionary journey from the frozen steppes of the Ice Age to the sterile aisles of modern supermarkets, we receive a profound lesson. What we consider normal today is actually the ultimate biological abnormality when viewed across the vast timeline of human history. The female body is not a flawed system that requires constant concealment. It is an evolutionary masterpiece built for endurance. By commercializing this sacred process and wrapping it in layers of social anxiety, we have severed our connection to the deep wisdom of our ancestors. Prehistoric women did not hide from their biology. They transformed it into social power, into sacred art, and into a powerful reason for the community to pause, gather, and look out for one another. It is time to replace modern judgment with evolutionary respect. We have traded an ancient, deeply woven social fabric for the convenience of a plastic product on a shelf, and most of us never even realized what we lost along the way. After discovering how our ancestors turned biology into the very first human symbol out in the ice, how do you think modern society should change its view on this natural cycle? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.